Hi, it's Ed in San Diego, and this, again, is Global TV. Global TV Network is going to be building a resource library of a couple of hundred programs going forward, and they're going to be all free access, free education. And we're really honored today to have this group with us, and we're going to do some real brief introductions. Before we do the introductions, we are sitting here, me in San Diego, and Sandra in Saudi Arabia, Sandrine in Dubai, Kasia and Csaba in Brighton, and we're all dealing with these black swan events, aren't we? Black swans are these crazy things that are highly unusual, but the convergence of them, social issues, which are political issues as well, and weather and firestorms and environmental climate change, and other things just all going on at once. So Csaba, your book and the theme is perfectly placed, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let's quickly welcome Csaba. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Csaba. I live in Brighton in UK, and the book, well, if I look at the title, then it's more timely than I thought so when I started writing it, unfortunately. But I think it's a topic that we need the most right now, more than ever before. The title is Uncommon Sense, and it refers to a mindset that allows people to see a situation from completely different perspectives so they can make a better decision. And then they can also choose to respond instead of just reacting, so they can get the best possible outcome. But that's not something that is natural to most people, and certainly it wasn't for me. It's something we need to learn.
Okay, we're going to come back to you in just a moment. Kasi, please introduce yourself formally.
Hi, I'm Kasia. I'm original Polish, but I lived for the last 15 years in the UK, Brighton. And I closely work with ICQ Global with Csaba.
Great, thank you. Sandrine, hello.
Hello, I'm Sandrine from Dubai, rewards and compensation consultant in the UAE.
Great, thank you. Sandra, welcome back.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sandra Corona, and I am the creator of the first global mobility book club in the industry. Thank you for having me, Ed.
Thank you. So how was your show? Was it yesterday?
It was yesterday.
It was great.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's great. And so you talked about what?
So we spoke with the author of the book, the Global Mobility Workbook. And I thought it was very interesting because you cannot have a global mobility book club if you don't start with the topic, right, ahead of time. Because a lot of people have the misunderstanding of what global mobility is. And it's very important up front that we explain what it does. It's not about cell phones, and it's not about parking lots or parking cars. It's about moving a person physically from one little place, home country, to a whole different location around the world. And we discussed what happens behind the scenes, but more of a human level, more of an understanding of the culture, of the beliefs, of government and all the regulations, but always focusing on the people, the expats, because we forget about that. That's what we focused on yesterday.
Look forward to hearing more as we have our discussion. So our programs cannot happen without sponsors, and so we're always looking for sponsors. Paul, could you please show the really cute video that you put together? Good, thank you very much. Okay, so as we get more sponsors, we're going to add to that and probably change the color of the grass, but who knows. So let's talk about today's topic. So business is about people and their mindset, right, Csaba?
Yes, definitely. That's the foundation.
Yeah, and so I've got my notes here, so I'm not memorizing all this. So I read this that what's culture? It's personalities, right?
Yes and no. I mean, there are more than 5,000 different definitions, and I think everybody has their own version. And mine is, I like keeping things practical and uncomplicated. So my definition is that it's a group behavior driven by values and needs. It's technically a group mindset. Our best practice is to get along with others and get the best possible results. Culture is what we are used to, not who we are. Of course, it shapes us, but that's not who we are.
So I read just this morning when I was doing some research and prep for this, cultural differences are, again, I'm reading this, cultural differences are like corporate diabetes, the silent killer. So you're in the business with ICQ and Global Disc about training trainers. And so cultural differences, we're not talking about cross-border, we're talking about within companies, within groups, within one country, there's multi-cultures, multi-personalities, right? So what's the right culture fit? Is it about mixing the right personalities?
The real question is not necessarily what is the right culture fit, but what is the right environment? Because for many people, culture equals nationality or countries. And that's why they often dismiss the topic, believing that if they don't work internationally, they don't need this topic. But like you said, if you employ more than one person, the team is already multicultural, even if it's not international. Because more than 80% of cultural differences exist within countries, not between them. We all belong to 15 or 20 culture groups at the same time. Country of origin is just a tiny fraction of that. It's 1 out of the 20. So when you talk to someone, even in your own family, what are the chances that the other person belongs to the same 15 or 20 culture groups like you? It's next to zero. Every single conversation is a cross-cultural dialogue. But most people don't know about it. So they are not looking for the knowledge and the solution that could unlock their potential. So for me, the right cultural fit is when you feel comfortable there. But it doesn't mean that there is a perfect one. For example, when we work with clients, often they want to increase diversity. And usually I say, please don't. And it sounds controversial, but it's not. And I say, aim for inclusion first, psychological safety. Because if you can get it right, then diversity is going to increase, but not the other way around.
Okay, so how do you build an inclusive culture?
Even according to Google, the number one trait of high-performing teams is psychological safety. When you are free to make a mistake and you don't have to be embarrassed if something goes wrong. So when we talk about, for example, trust, respect, pain, and pleasure, then they sound really objective, but they are actually really subjective topics. So the more you understand yourself, the more you understand other people, the more trust you can enable, the more synergy you can create, the less conflicts you have. And that's the goal. But that starts with us, because 95% of our actions are driven by values and beliefs that most of us are not even aware of. So yes, we can reflect on the symptoms, but not the root cause of the problem. So we start with the mindset, and then we can learn about other people. And that's uncommon sense, because cultural differences are just clashes of common senses. And if that's how you look at this topic, then it becomes obvious that you can remove this illusion of separation. Just because I'm right, it doesn't mean you are wrong. It just means that we have different perspectives. And if we can share our insights, then diversity can lead to innovation. Otherwise, it turns into painful liability.
So how do you find a manager who's willing to be wrong, who's willing to learn, willing to share and collaborate?
Sounds like a science fiction. But usually people don't do anything until it hurts enough. And the problem is that often people get used to the pain so much that they don't feel it anymore. But it doesn't mean that the damage is not being done. And that's why I talked about this topic as corporate diabetes. That, for long, you don't see the symptoms, but when you do, then probably that's it. It might be too late because it just adds up like the compound effect. You don't see it for long. You try to avoid the conflict. You don't say anything. You assume a lot of different things. And this is where it goes wrong.
Let's welcome Helen Lobo. Hello. Oh, put your sound on. So,
hello, everybody. Hi, Edwin.
Hi there.
Csaba. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandrine.
Hi.
So
Wonderful
welcome.
to see all of you.
Yeah, welcome. I'm glad you've got power.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay, good.
Carry on. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's all right. We're just talking about corporate culture and the issues connected with it. And who knows, that could be a topic on your program.
It is already.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
It is.
Yeah, good. I look forward to that. All right. So, Csaba, how do you build a common purpose for the team? How would you train the trainer to clearly communicate that, building common purpose when you have so many different outlooks, so many different personalities?
We have different personalities, that's true, but you need to have one vision. So when we talk about companies, then they have amazing mission statements, but they are so abstract that it means something else to everybody else. Talk about sustainability. Probably you have a very different picture in your head than me. And it's too vague. And it's really difficult to create a purpose. It's really difficult to create corporate culture. It's much easier when you can break it down and you can make it more concrete and you talk about actual behaviors. So we have a weird exercise during the workshops, and that's about seeing a cow. And of course, it doesn't say anything, if you don't see the picture. But the point is that, for example, the Inc. magazine had a really interesting research. They asked the employees of a company about the top 3 priorities. Nothing, magical and abstract like mission statement and values. What is the top 3 priorities of the company? So they expected 64% of the people to know that. The actual number was 2%. 2% of the people. How efficient is that? And that's the problem with that. I did this exercise with a company in Germany. They were Fortune 300, and the CEO was part of the workshop. He attended it. And we had to create a mission statement, and we had to create high-performing teams. And I just asked them about the top 3 values of the company. I just copy-pasted it from their website. The only person who knew that was the CEO. And for him, it was like a slap in the face because he was so proud of it. But nobody else knew it. And that's the problem with that. We have to create that vision. We know exactly what we want to achieve. Because if we have the same vision, then we can tap into that wealth of expertise and creativity in the team. Because only one idea could change everything. But what if I have a different picture in my head? Then, I do my best, I try harder, and then we just grow apart. And lots of potential is lost there. And that's a problem. Yeah. So sometimes it takes time to create that vision. But once you see it, it cannot be unseen.
Sandrine, if I could turn this perspective towards you, okay, you're an expert on comp and ben, rewards. How does this fit in with the different personalities in a group?
I think what we see today is the beginning of a movement towards personalization of compensation and benefits packages. So we've all heard maybe in the last few years the more classic elements, which was called the flexible rewards, where maybe an employee is given let's say $500, and within this $500, you can choose between getting more dental or vision cover or something like that. What we see now is that there are some experiments in some organizations. I've read recently, like there was a company in France which is offering an option between getting more on-target bonus possibility and therefore more variable pay possibility, but less basic pay. Or for some people, they can choose also to have more vacation and less basic pay. So that allows, within some parameters, obviously, but it's a beginning of some personalization, even in the core elements of the compensation package. And I think that reflects this element of having different, maybe not personalities, but maybe needs. It can be personality, it can be generation. related, although I don't believe too much in generations. I believe more in stages of life. Are you still single? Are you a new parent? Are you preparing for retirement? You have kids having to go to university. So I think this is how we can maybe translate it from that point of view.
Sandra?
So for me, when it comes to global mobility, right, I have seen a lot of disconnect when it comes to preparing people before going and moving to a new country. What Csaba proposes and what Sandrine is saying is absolutely true. There's this disconnect about understanding. Say, for example, you're sending a what we call a seasonal person to go on assignment. And then from the same company, same location, but one is younger and the other one is older. One is from a different location and the other one, location around the world, and the other one is from another country, right? And the company assumes that just because they're from the same company, they can become roommates, or they can place them in the same living location and they're going to get along fine, when it's not going to be that case, because companies forget the importance of understanding and learning. Like Sandrine was saying, it's about stages. Where are you? Are we sharing the same understanding? Are you going to see me like your father if I give you advice? Are you going to see me as a millennial just because I'm too young, instead of a person that can help you re-engineer your ideas, right? So if companies would understand, step back a little bit, it's not about the money. It's going to be about the money, but first you need to take care of the people. And then, the people are going to take care of you. So there's a huge disconnect in companies when it comes to talking about culture, values, goals, objectives, all of those things. And I learned that with Csaba, and I am so amazed with this program about that, because it is so true.
Thank you. Helen, dealing with a lot of different personalities and putting together your programs, how do you manage that?
Well, we've mastered the art, Edwin. But, having said that, I think from in our part of the world, and I think Sandrine and Sandra will agree with me, there's a lot of pay parity as well between nationalities. And I think, though, that's not touched upon. It's just not relocation. It's not just packages. It's about also nationalities. For the same position, if somebody is coming in from any of the emerging markets, Far East or India or Pakistan, although they might be at the same level in terms of functional health, the packages are completely different. They're expected to kind of compromise on what they're getting. So I think that's another issue in terms of global mobility as well.
Right, thank you. Csaba, where do you see the most promise? Short-term, small wins, if you will. Rather than everybody suddenly understanding each other and hugging. Where do you see the small wins happening fastest?
Well, if you think about one of the main reasons for disengagement in a company, it's not that people want to be right, but they want to be heard. And I think that's the missing step right now. And that's exactly what we can see in the world. Everybody has so much to say, and they're really passionate about it, but nobody wants to listen. And the problem is that these issues existed, long time ago, but everything was suppressed. And if you cannot ask a question, you cannot say anything without believing that the other person or the other group would get offended, what do? You assume. And because we have negativity bias, at least 70% of our thoughts are negative. That's how the brain was designed. We're not going to assume something good. So I'm going to discuss it with people like me. That's homophilic diversity. We discuss it. And they are going to confirm my belief. We talk about it. So gradually, we are just going to widen the gap between individuals and groups. So the question is, do we want to be right, or we want to learn and we want to grow? Because we can see what's going to happen if we don't. So that's the alternative.
Well,
that's the lesson today.
Thank you. Paul, let's show the BlackRock video. This is about sustainability. As I said, it was just released to the press this morning. I got it at 5 a.m. here in California. And so let's show the world what BlackRock, which is, of course, huge banking venture fund company.
Can sustainability accelerate recovery? There are 4 key areas for increased resilience: our systems, policies, companies, and innovation. With regard to systems, we've heard clearly for many years the importance of focusing on climate, but also the broader societal system and inequalities in it remain salient conversations to be addressed as we think about how to strengthen for the future. The continued importance of thinking about not just companies, but also the communities with which companies interact, and all those who have a stake in what is going on, remains critical. In this very unusual moment we've had because of COVID-19, we all know that there is unprecedented policy action taking place. We think that in Europe, there could be significant opportunity in thinking about energy as new policies are formed, and in the US and all over the world, increased public-private partnership. So as I move toward resilience in companies, now that we've considered system and policy resilience, the importance of thinking about what companies are doing and also how companies are going about their business. One more point is resilience in innovation. The world had the experience in these last few months of having our processes completely upended, but true strength in our focus on innovation over so many years. Our work in sustainable investing has made it so that we are more aware of the world around us. That stance has given us strength to incorporate sustainability, but also to shift our way of thinking. And finally, we have a focus on transition. Yes, environmental transition, but how much our economies are changing and will change.
All right, so this will be, of course, available going forward. And if you want me to send it to you directly, just that link, I'm very happy to do it. Just let me know. So, Csaba, this is from the top of Wall Street. And it plays right to your game plan, people. You know, what they didn't talk about is people aspect. I'm sure you noticed that. But it's underlying everything, right?
I don't know if it's that obvious, because that's exactly what I was thinking about. So they mention people, but there's nothing about people. And often, even when they talk about people, it's more like a PR and marketing trick rather than a strategic HR decision. And sometimes people do the wrong things for the right reasons, and the other way around as well. And that's why it's important to make this topic as uncomplicated and practical as possible, so people can actually use it and they can make a difference.
Okay, so now in setting up a training program, this could be a lot of fun for some people. It would be for me, but I know some people, they are not comfortable in this kind of a loose environment. Right, Sandra? Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you deal with people? I mean, you've got a problem there, Csaba. How do you deal with the push-pull, the smile, the frown, all in the same minute?
Are we talking about a workshop?
Yeah. Well, getting people together in a company, whether it's virtual or whether it's in the office, social distancing with masks, who knows? But, how do you get people to open up and feel safe about it?
If I think about most of the icebreakers that I've seen so far, then usually they are about to make people happy and, they are funny and you create that kind of atmosphere. But I think that if you really care about your clients, you make them cry. And I know it sounds weird, but in the beginning, this is what we need to do, that they have to understand why are they there? What is the benefit of attending that workshop? And what is the cost of ignoring it? You have to move them from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. They have to know that they are missing something. Because often we just get used to things and then, yeah, it's a good idea. No. I'll show you how bad it is, because it's the silent killer and it's affecting you. And these are the results. And you are part of it. Maybe you haven't noticed it, but it's real. It's affecting you on a personal level. So if we cannot make it personal and emotional and practical in the very beginning, it doesn't really matter what we do after that. They're not going to pay attention.
So is there a way, Csaba, within companies, is there a new way? Oh, look, we're dealing with the new now, okay? People have gotten used to working from home. They may not like it, but they've gotten used to it. And, in the world of talent mobility, it's going to be far less movement of people. There'll still be personal relocations going on, particularly at a senior level, but not like before. And that's just my opinion. But so everything is going virtual. Mm-hmm. And so, for instance, I may be hired, just as an aside, as an example, I'm in San Diego, so I may be recruited by a company and says, okay, we'll pay you 6 figures, and you're going to work in Geneva, but you're going to live in San Diego. You're not going to get on a plane for the foreseeable future, but you're going to work every day in Geneva, all right, and deal with the people there and blah, 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 okay? So how can I fit in? How can they in Geneva accept me?
Maybe they can. And the problem is that if you look at the typical country-specific approach, then they just point out statistically average national differences. So if they expect you to be a typical American, that's what they are going to see, even if you're not like that. If you are not like that at all, and they think that's normal American, but you're not like that, what's the logical conclusion? You're not normal. I mean, that would be the assumption, and that's definitely not good for anyone. But for example, I was working with a company. It was a German company, and they employed a lot of Brazilian engineers. And we had to create a high-performing team. And, we started with a typical Brazilian and German approach, really different. But then when they saw the global disk results, then it turned out that more than 90% of those Brazilian engineers were much more German inside than most Germans. And this is when everything changed, because they found the right environment where their personal preferences matched what was normal around them. So if you have to work in Switzerland, maybe you can fit in easily. But just because you were born in Switzerland, it doesn't mean that you can fit in easily, because at least 70% of the people are significantly different, but they learned how to navigate efficiently there. So this is how we would start. Not approaching it as an American, but let's see who you are inside, and then we can compare it to where you go, what's normal in that environment. And also, we can prepare them as well. That's why we focus on cognitive diversity. We can see the people that you would work with. We create a team report. We can see the biggest mindset gap between you and, for example, another person or the environment, and we can prepare you for that. It doesn't get more practical than that.
Sandrine, where does money come in? Compensation and benefits.
Sorry, I was still on mute. Good point. From a training point of view, if we're putting it in the context of people acquiring more knowledge or better understanding of who they are and therefore improving their performance, personally, I don't think that we should pay for that, but we should pay for the application. I think one of the challenges, so I might be going a little bit off topic here, but I think one of the challenges that we see is that people can attend workshops, gain good knowledge, but if they are not in a workplace or in an environment, generally speaking, but we're talking workplace, that gives them the opportunity to apply that knowledge and therefore to really grow the skills to go to that level of unconscious competence, which is where we really want to be, where it's not a strain or an effort to apply, that's not going to work. But if the organization is offering that, then those people who are offered the opportunity to grow their skills and become a better, I shouldn't say maybe a better person, but let's say in terms of human relationships within the workplace, fit better, have more empathy, and so on. And if they're given this opportunity, but then they don't apply those skills, then maybe we should reward those who do, or not reward as much those who don't. So that's how I would see that the compensation aspect might come in.
Cool. Helen, would you like to comment?
So we do a lot of training programs, and we've got a lot of mixed nationalities. What we do is we have an icebreaker, which kind of builds trust between peers, and sometimes we have a mandate of having to run a program where the company wants them to communicate, because these are large organizations, but they never really get to know each other than picking up a telephone call or just getting the work done. But there's so much more that can be done when you kind of build those relationships one-on-one. And that's what we do in programs. We kind of build that trust factor first, and then everything else builds up from there. So, so that's what I think Sandrine rightly said. Empathy is a very important element, I think, from an organizational perspective, especially when you're kind of dealing with your workforce, because you're dealing with different mindsets, different cultures, different nationalities, different, like when we are putting students learners in a group, sometimes you can't put managers and juniors in the same group because they're inhibited. They can't really come up with what they want to say because they know somebody's behind them, and they're afraid to kind of speak up. So we always make sure that when we are doing programs, we make sure that they are at the same level so that they are able to speak up. They able to speak their mind without having the fear element coming in. So yeah.
So when people are in a group setting, Csaba, within a company, and we'll just talk most companies, they are playing the game. A lot of politics. Across the table could be somebody who's out to get them or to get in their way of getting a promotion because they want it. And so they're sitting there, whether it's male or female or different color, different background, religion, doesn't matter. It's all of that enters into it, but they're just concerned about politics and about like for instance, not looking bad or saving face, all right, to use the Asian idea. The idea of if you don't know something, you fake it until you make it, or if you get caught in doing that, then you're off with your head, and you're in front of everybody. So, I mean, how do you deal with that? This is real life stuff, and how do you get the team to be comfortable? That's where your coaching comes in, right?
I don't think that they have to be comfortable. They have to feel safe. I think there's a very important distinction between the two, because when somebody's too comfortable, nothing happens there. Running on autopilot, that's not really good for anyone. But when you feel safe, then even if you think about the flow state, that's equal amount of pressure and support. When you match your abilities, that's when you get into the flow state, and then time and space disappears and you enjoy it and you perform really well. So that's the reason why sometimes even good intention can backfire, because we try to help our kids and make your life so much easier than mine was. But what is the result? They don't learn how to fight. They don't learn how to work hard. If you put too much pressure on them, then they panic and it backfires. So that's the reason why the Google's research came up with psychological safety as the #1 trait of high-performing teams. And that's exactly what you described. That when you are in survival mode, you don't have to be smart. You don't have to be inclusive. You have to be strong and quick. In survival mode, we are really limited. And that's a problem. So when you talk about the company, corporate culture is the behavior that is rewarded. And that's why it's so important. It's a group habit. You have to conform to the norms, because if you're not like that, then they don't reward it. And that's the reason why we have to focus on inclusion. That's why we have to see the world from different perspectives. But it's not going to happen without psychological safety. Because when you have a high level of cognitive diversity, it just means that you have a lot of different perspectives. But can you make it work? Are they going to argue? Or maybe I have a really good idea, but 8 people disagreed with me. So am I going to push? Or I just conform to the norms and then, no, Csaba, no. Just keep quiet. Play it safe. Then what's the point in hiring smart people? So how do you hurt them gently? And this is what I use. For example, there is a research done by the 3 Circle partners in the US. They created the Babin model. And they were the ones who wanted to understand how much potential is lost in a team. And the average was 79%. Imagine that. You put really smart people in a team. You hope to create synergy by combining the skills. In reality, they clash. They lose 79% of the potential. So my question to the client is that, is it 90% in your company or 50? But what we can guarantee is there's a lot of potential. And if you don't know how to unlock it, or you don't know how much potential remains untapped, then you are losing out. So let's put a number to it. What if we could improve it by 10%? Because it's there, you have that knowledge. What if you stop losing 10%? What would that mean in a month? So how much did you lose in the last 12 months? And for how long are you willing to lose more? And we can put a concrete number there. And that's how you make it practical and personal. And then we can dig deeper. So how does it affect you on a personal level as a leader? What would that mean to you if you could improve it? Would you get promoted? Would you be more popular? Would you excel? Now there is a reason for that. And this is a positive approach. You're not telling people they are not good enough. You tell them the exact opposite, that they have so much more potential than they realize, and you help them unlock it. That's a good deal. It's a good proposal.
Okay, now in the past, it's only 6 months, but it seems like it's a decade ago, where people went in a company meeting, they go into a room, shut the door. There's no camera recording this. You're not on TV. You're just across the boardroom table or in a circle, right? But nothing's being recorded.
Mm-hmm.
But now, when people are disconnected or virtual, remote, everybody is on TV. And man, this is going to be seen, it could be seen 10 years from now. It could be seen by the FBI, who knows, it could be seen by Russians, or, it could be seen by anybody. And here we are, we're talking openly. So the world of employment and interpersonal communications has changed. So how does that impact your job? Is your job getting easier because things are recorded and people are conscious of being on camera?
I used to work in hospitality, and in the last 10, 15 years, it changed a lot. Because before it was about service, making people happy. But then when TripAdvisor came along, then suddenly it turned into a weapon. And the customers knew that. Give me free stuff or I'll leave a bad review. And that's going to affect your business. And I think in a way, this is something similar to that. Because now anybody can record anything, and then you just take it out of context and they can say, Edwin, oh, you were so bad. This is what you said. But I didn't hear what you said just 2 seconds later on. But they can use it against you. So of course it's frustrating. But in a way, it's very similar to the political correctness. It's overdone. You cannot talk about things. So, and when you cannot talk about it, you just assume. And we discuss what happens then. And to me, this is the most important part, to facilitate conversations. But if we overdo it, and then suddenly we chase people for something that they haven't done, there's a problem. So for example, that there's this sign, this OK sign, or it depends on where you show it. And then since last year, it is the official, it's on the BBC's hate sign list.
Yeah, well, who would know? I mean, who would
exactly.
know that, right?
Now that's the sign of white supremacy. So now people are going through old pictures and they're accusing people of something bad. But it has nothing to do with that. And that's the problem, that everything is just a tool. Even if you have the best intention, if you overdo it, it becomes a weakness. Just like political correctness, for example. And you see what you want to see, what you expect to see. If you are looking for racism, you're going to find it everywhere. If you're looking for good people, that's what you find. Our brain is like Google's I'm feeling lucky function. You find what you're looking for, and you are in charge. You ask the questions. The quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. But again, we don't learn about the mindset. We just get used to it, and we are lucky if we can use it properly. So that's why we need to learn about this.
Sandra, this is very interesting stuff. I think you need to take all this info and add it to your book club conversations.
Definitely. And Csaba is one of my guest speakers, authors. So I'm definitely going to, I think people are going to have a treat with this conversation. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So, Sandrine, I thank you very much for being our guest again today on this program. Do you want to sum up and talk about what you've got coming up in your life?
Oh, okay. Coming up, I'm working at the moment on two main things. So continuing to work on my online trainings, which I'm hoping will come out soon on the market. And I'm also partnering with a former colleague of mine to write an ebook on the topic of promotions. So promotions in the sense of moving an employee to a higher grade, because we noticed that nobody is talking about it in the compensation and benefits world. And everybody's only talking about how an employee can ask for a promotion, or how a manager can know if the employee is ready or say no to an employee. But we wanted to approach it from a more systemic point of view. So hopefully we're targeting end of October if we manage to get everything right for that. So that's the news. Thank you for asking it.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Wow.
Thank you.
And Sandra, when is your next Global Mobility book club workshop?
So we're thinking about doing this. We're in September, October, sometime in the first week of October. So now I just have to engage Csaba, convince him to do that.
Oh, you're on camera. Careful.
So that's when we're planning the next one. And, I've had the opportunity to read his book. And I recommend to everybody to read the book. And if you have the opportunity, go to his free webinars that he gives. Because if you are interested in what has Csaba explained to you, you should at least dig a little bit deeper and decide if this is the route that you want to go. Because like you all have been saying, I think at the end of the day, the problem comes to effective communication. You were saying about, the boardrooms, what happens if you're recorded, if you say something wrong? Well, people don't know how to speak. They don't know how to communicate. And they label, everything is about labels nowadays. How about if we just remove labels? How about if we learn how to communicate and we learn to stand up, go to the next cubicle that is right beside you and sit down and talk with the person, right? Because that's where a lot of the issues come. So if you don't have the desire to learn and how to speak and communicate with people, the ICQ program is not going to help. It's going to give you the idea, like Sandrine was saying, it doesn't matter what we tell you. If you can't or have the opportunity to practice it, then what's the point? But there's some certain truth there, or we can have the opportunity to practice it. You can go to a restaurant, you could go to a festival, you can go to your neighbor's Mexican party, and go and have some fun. Try to practice it. no more labels, and effective communication.
Csaba, when are you speaking publicly again?
I think it's going to be the HR summit organized by Helen. That's going to be the second week of October, the Middle East one.
Okay.
And then the webinars we have regularly. Can't remember when the next one is, but the next Uncommon Mindset course is in November. That's going to be full on. That's what Sandra attended. That's my favorite.
Cool. That's great. So on our Global TV network tomorrow, tomorrow being September 17, at 10 a.m. Pacific, I'm producing a show that's very unusual for me anyway. It's all about genius. Okay. The idea of being a genius. What does this mean? Okay. And how it relates to innovations in business. So we have a few guests. Our featured guest is based in Phoenix, Arizona. Brian Hageman is a research scientist with Arizona State University. Anyway, he's developed an engine that runs on hot water, nothing else. So no fossil fuels, and it's been proven, it's been tested, and they're using it now in desalinization to because the current existing ways of desalinizing seawater is hugely expensive, takes a long time. They figured out how to do it at a fraction of the cost and quicker, and they just use hot water. So he's going to do a demo. He's going to show us how all that works. He's got a video, of course. So we do have others from the mobility industry. We have Lynn Greenberg, who's in New York, a young lady who's developed an app called Pivot. And what it does, it helps. It's an app that's a social mechanism that if she's in London, she's on assignment with Bloomberg, doesn't know anybody there. So she gets on the network on the app, and it can connect people who's in the same age, also an expat, also in London, West End, or someplace. And all these connections come up now. So she's going to talk about that.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we have Daniel Cunningham, who I think some of you have met on my programs before. He's founder of CubeMonk, CubeMonk.com. CubeMonk is a blockchain-oriented shipping container that's temperature controlled, trackable like a UPS package. You know where it is, FedEx package. So you know where your shipment is anywhere in the world, 24/7. It's safe. And so he's going to be talking about how he invented that and the next step with that product. And then we have Julie and Chase from the Bridge School. You've met them before. They're going to be talking about online learning and how to do it correctly and some of the innovations they're working on now. So it's all about genius, all about innovations. And so if you guys know of anybody who could be interested to tune in tomorrow, it's free. And then we're going to do another program in October and then another one on the same topic, assuming we find geniuses who want to talk about it. So Sandrine, come on back and talk about your genius new thing, okay? And so anyway, thank you, Csaba, for talking about your stuff extemporaneously here. I learned a lot from you. And I look forward to meeting you someday in person.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Sandrine, great to see you again. Sandra. All right. So thank you all for being on Global TV.